Hello everyone and welcome to Traveling Misknits. I still haven't gotten used to the new name. It gives me such joy every time I say it or write it, but yeah. Welcome to Traveling Misknits. My name is Pia and I am so very happy that you're joining me here today for a little chat about yarn and knitting. I have an abundance of evos this week. I have 5 and I have no new cast-ons. Or maybe it's true, maybe it's not so true. We'll talk more about that later. First, I want to share with you what I'm wearing today, which is my Advent sweater that I have just published. And I am going to just stand up so that you can get a better look at it. I am afraid that where it's possible for me to stand, the light is horrible, but let's see if we can make it work. So here she is, my Advent sweater 2023. I have decided to call it Hyacinth because this very simple color work pattern with the skinny stripes really reminds me of the hyacinths that I have in my windows for Christmas. These unassuming green stems that will suddenly burst into an explosion of color and delicious smell. Yeah, so Hyacinth it is. It is, as you can see, a very relaxed fit, quite oversized, and then short, not cropped, I would say, but short. It hits me like at the top of my hip bone. No, actually a little lower, mid-hip, something like that. I do give instructions in the pattern to how to make it a little longer by simply knitting the sections in the main color between the color work a little longer. I also give instructions on how long each section should be, because meeting both stitch gauge and row gauge it can be tricky, and with this material it's even trickier because we are working on some relatively heavy needles. I think it is it a 6 millimeter or a 5.5 millimeter, something like that. So it's not the super heavy needles that will make your hands and arms hurt, but it's still, I find that the thicker the needle, the more difficult it is to hit both stitch and row gauge. So I do give some suggestions for how to work with a row gauge that is a bit off, and also I give, as I said, instructions on how to make it longer. Obviously you can make it quite a lot longer by just continuing the last section here before the ribbing, but I also give instructions on how to make the sections between the color work a little longer. It has a folded over neckline to make it extra cozy, and it is just like the Jericho's Rose from last year, designed to use up an yarny advent calendar. This one is not going to use up your yarn advent, not even in the larger sizes. You do not use a lot of each color. But you can also use scraps, loads of scraps. This is knit in a DK weight held together with some fluff, which means that if you have scraps in DK and in fingering, you can combine them and just hold the fingering double. And also, regardless of your advent calendar being DK weight or fingering, you can use it. The fingering you just hold double. And it is maybe difficult to see. The lighting is so bad here today. I am recording a little later than I usually do, and also it is a particularly gray and gloomy day. But maybe you can see that I have used a lot of different nuances of red, orange, pink, and purple. And then I have held it all together with this drops brushed alpaca silk. I cannot. Here we go. So this is a nice fluffy yarn. I could have also, of course, held it together with a mohair, which, I mean, we often use mohair, but I actually like the brushed alpaca because it doesn't really fluff up as much as a mohair would have done, but it still blends the colors together beautifully. And I also used the same drops brushed alpaca silk to hold together with, hang on, some green drops soft tweed. There you go. Oh, this is even a good representation of the color. What do you know? So this I held together with a green brushed alpaca, and then all the scraps and leftovers in the orange, pink, red, and purple I held together with the pink brushed alpaca. Of course, when you have an advent calendar, you don't know what colors you're gonna get, and I don't know what colors I'm gonna get. I'm gonna knit myself a second one with one of my yarn advents, the one that I have received from Camijo Knits. She also has a podcast that I will link in the description below. I don't know what colors are in that advent calendar, so I don't know what main color I'm gonna use. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, and just see if I can get a feel for where this advent is going, and then I will choose my main color. It's either gonna be white, because white, it would be like a little snowball. It would be so adorable, and I would definitely use mohair if I go with the white to get this super fluffy. I am gonna go with the white if the colors are light and muted, like dusty pastels, something like that. Then I'm gonna use the white, and I'm probably gonna hold the advent colors together with a grayish beige color. I also have an option of some black yarn. In that case, I'm gonna use some black mohair and probably a charcoal, some merino of some kind. And in that case, I think I will hold the advents together with a gray mohair, and I will go with that option if the colors are coolish, if the colors are grays and olive greens in cooler nuances, then I'm gonna go with the black, because black is always a wonderful background for an advent sweater. It really allows the colors to come to life. I would be very surprised if the colors turned out to be like really bright and fun colors. That's not Camilla's aesthetic as I know it. She dyes very wearable colors, like dusty, moody, beautiful colors. But yeah, should it turn out to be neon and speckles and bright, bright colors, then I would definitely go with the black main color as well. And I, of course, also have some gray that I could use just in case the colors are, yeah, if they call for a gray. I can't really describe what colors would call for a gray, but many colors do. So I will have to decide that as we open a couple of the Advent colors. But I can't even start. I was going to say I could start on the first days just knitting the color, because you also use a couple of the Advent colors in there on the inside. But I don't know what I'm going to hold them with before I know what the main color is going to be. Well, that doesn't really matter. I just wanted to mention that this sweater would be completely different. Imagine that it was a white main color and then some dusty pastels for the contrast. That would give a completely different look to this sweater. And yeah, even though the fit is really relaxed, I still think that it could be quite elegant, perhaps. I'm thinking a tall skirt and some boots, or maybe even a pencil skirt and some pumps with it. I think I could do that. And because you are working on a relatively heavy needle, you have a quite loose gauge. You can also see it's really airy and flowy. So it's not all that hot. It's not like the warm sweater that you put on when you go outside. This one can easily be worn inside all season. I'm gonna go sit down again and hopefully find some better light than this. Yeah. So I was right about the horrible lighting. I apologize. I hope you were able to get a good look at the sweater regardless. But I'm actually counting this as a finished object because I had to knit the last sleeve. Back in early fall, I knit the sweater, I knit one sleeve, and then we were going to Dubai. And I looked at this mountain of yarn because I was knitting with scraps and wasn't really sure how much I was going to use. And I wanted lots of different colors. It was a mountain of yarn. And I was like, no, I don't want to travel with that much yarn. And also I was going to Dubai. I wasn't going to sit and knit by the pool on a sleeve for a heavy sweater. So I decided I'll fix that when I get back to Denmark. And I got back to Denmark, but I was only here for, 3-4 days before we went on to Texas. And so my thought process was basically the same. Am I gonna fill up half a suitcase with yarn for a sweater that has so very little knitting left on it? I seriously knit sleeve number 2 in one evening. So yeah, I decided to leave it, let it wait until I came back. So I just finished the second sleeve. And as I said, it took me one evening, a long evening, but still one evening I was able to finish the sleeve. I am thus counting this as a finished object. Let's look at number 2, because this is something that I am very excited about. My shawl, my giant assigned pooling shawl is finished. It is blocked. I have woven in the ends. I have even put on almost all of the little tassels. I still have a few more tassels to go. I am gonna fix that in, yeah. It's not gonna take me long. I'm gonna fix it later today. But yeah, how pretty is that? I'm trying to be modest, but it's difficult because I really, really love the look of this shawl. I love how you have this very simple striped body of the shawl, and then the totally crazy border with the assigned pooling and the playful little tassels. I love that it's, yeah, it is so much fun to look at and to wear. I'm sure I have been like trying it on in various ways. The way I really love to wear this is more like a poncho or a shrug, really, where I wrap it around me and allow it to go down my shoulders. And this is so much easier when I am in front of a mirror and also standing up. But yeah, like this, I really love this look. It is, as I said, almost a shrug and just, yeah, so much fun. I have been knitting on this shawl forever and ever, and I have knitted many, many, many times. But it was totally worth it. Totally worth it. And I have found a couple of testers. So what I have to do now is write up the pattern. I mean, I do have a very raw edition of the pattern, but now I'm going to write up a pattern that other people can use. I'm going to send it to the testers so that they have something fun to knit on in the month of December. I will say that this shawl is probably not a beginner-friendly project. I mean, all of the stripes here, super beginner-friendly. But the assigned pooling section, you need to be able to read your knitting, and you also need to be confident enough to make some decisions on the go, because it's not, I haven't been able to give precise instructions for the assigned pooling stitch because it's different how long the sections of contrasting color is. So what you do is you knit with your main color until you meet the contrasting color. Then you work a lot of yarn overs until, yarn overs and knits, obviously, until your contrast color runs out, and then you continue in stockinette. And then on the next round, you drop the yarn overs and you cross the stitches. And because, I mean, with the skein of yarn that I had, I would typically get somewhere between 11 and 30 knit stitches, including all of the yarn overs. But you just never know. And sometimes the pooling will pool, as you can see. So you will be doing the yarn overs as you are at the same time dropping yarn overs from the previous row. So I will say you need to be pretty confident with your knitting. It's not difficult. It's like I said, it's yarn overs that you drop and then you cross these long stitches. But you need to be confident enough to be able to do 2 things, 3 things at once. If you're a beginner and you love the look of this, I would say go for it. Just put in a lifeline before you start the section of the assigned pulling, because if you have a lifeline, you move your lifeline every time you have knit so much that you think it would be horrible to have to rip that back. Then you put your lifeline again and you knit again until you reach a point where you're like, this would be a disaster. You put a new lifeline, and it is quite easy. Most interchangeable needles for sure have like a little hole in them up in the joint where you can put your lifeline through, so that as you're knitting, you're placing your lifeline at the same time, which is genius, because if there's one thing I really don't like, it is threading a lifeline through live stitches. But if you do it like that, it happens without you even noticing. So yeah, finally finished. I'm not gonna talk about the yarn again. I have talked about it so many times. Just very briefly, it is yak and silk from A Knitter's World. So I will link the yarn in the description box below. 2 finished objects. We still have more, because my Mohair socks. Do you remember my Mohair socks? I started knitting these in the summer, and then when I was going to Milan with Peter and then flying to Denmark after that, I cast on sock number 2 because I thought that's going to be enough knitting for me. A sock for 2 days in Milan and then a flight to Denmark. And I remember sitting at the airport in Milan, turning the heel, and I was knitting. I even have an Instagram post of me sitting there with my tea and my cake and my knitting, having such a good time. Then as I boarded the plane, I got sick and all the craziness happened. And after that, I haven't really been able to pick up the sock again, which is crazy. And the sock, I brought the sock to Dubai. I brought the sock to Texas. Never knit a stitch on it. I didn't even show these as some of my whips because I've just been shying away from them. Too many bad memories, I guess. One is blocked, one is not. Let me show you the one that's blocked. That is so much nicer. But yeah, couple of days ago, I decided enough of that nonsense. This sock has not harmed you in any way. And if there are bad memories in this sock, you should put in some new good memories. So I put on a Christmas movie and I finished the sock. And I am so happy that I did. And I'm not afraid of these socks anymore. They don't have any bad memories connected to them any longer. They're very simple socks. They're basically 2x2 ribbing. A couple of details. First of all, I knit them holding together one strand of alpaca sock yarn with one strand of silk mohair. So they're super fluffy and they're thick and they're absolutely wonderful to wear. As you can see, when I do these 2x2 ribbed socks, I always knit a cuff in 1x1 ribbing. And then I knit one round of just knit stitches, and then I go into the 2x2 ribbing. I like that look. To me, it looks more finished than if the 2x2 was all the way up. I don't know. That's what I always do. I have made a short row heel just using some German short rows because those are the short rows that I'm most comfortable with. Then on the foot, I have 2 more stitches on top of the foot than I have under the foot, just because I think it gives a better balance to the ribbing. And then there's the toe, the fun little toe. It is a rounded toe with just some very, very simple color work going on. It's a little sun. I think about it as a little sun with the rays coming up to my feet to keep me warm and cozy. And these definitely keep me warm and cozy. They're so nice. And I'm so happy that I finished them. Last winter, I knit myself a pair of cozy socks, ribbed socks, with some mohair, just like these. And one disappeared. I mean, we all know that washing machines will eat single socks. That's just a fact of life. That will happen. If you put in 3 pairs of socks, you will have probably 2 pairs of socks and then a single sock and probably another single sock that has somehow descended from this black hole where single socks are sent by washing machines. But I never wash my hand knit socks in the machine. I actually go through the effort of hand washing them. So I have no idea. How do you lose a single sock if it's not in the washing machine? I have no idea. I have looked all over for it. But that was actually part of my decision to finish these, was that I needed some warm, cozy socks for the winter. We are, as returning viewer can probably tell from the backdrop, we're back in Denmark and it is cold. It is freezing cold. So I'm really gonna need this, and now that I have shown them on the podcast, I am definitely gonna put them on. So, 3 finished objects. I will say, this week I have been doing a really good job of actually working towards my goal of clearing my needles before December 1st. I guess the past couple of weeks has just been like warm-up sessions, trying to get in the mental space of finishing things. I have been finishing things. And the next thing that I'm going to show you is something that really surprised even me. But yeah. My big scarf. My big scarf is finished. It has wonderful little tassels, and it is long, and it is wide, and it is so cozy. And if you watched last week, you saw me saying this. I don't know. Will I finish? Only time will tell. Will I finish this? Well, maybe if I have something that I really need to finish, I should convince myself that I'm probably not going to finish it, because then it will happen. I don't know how this works. It's magic. But yeah, I did finish it. And I still love the color. I love the texture. I knew this particular stitch pattern as faux ribbing, but I just heard from a podcast viewer that she knew it as faux brioche. It is the pattern where you knit 3 and then you slip 1 with the yarn held in front, knit 3, slip 1, and on the next row you knit 1, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1. I was inspired by Inga of the Knitting Traditions podcast. She was working on a scarf in this particular pattern, and I was like, I need to do that too. And I think I told you on the last podcast how I got obsessed when I saw it. So I just ran into my closet in Texas, where I have a teeny tiny collection of yarn, and I found this Pound of Love. Is that what it's called? It was from Joann's, and I had bought 2 balls of it a while back because I wanted to make a blanket for my daughter-in-law. She's not getting a blanket. But I got a scarf. I got a huge, wonderful, cozy scarf. I have been wearing this on repeat. It is perfect. It is so lovely to just bunch up in. And I was so fortunate. Peter gave me a present, a feel better present, because I was so sad about losing my brand new iPad, which is a super sad story. But then he thought, no, you're so sad. And then he gave me a feel better present. That was a new winter coat in a charcoal gray. So this one is so, so pretty together with that coat. Yeah, it actually goes with everything I own. Except maybe I do have a very old pink winter coat. That would probably be, I don't know actually. It depends on the particular shade of pink, if it would be just gorgeous with this or if I would look like a crazy person. I need to figure that out. But other than that, this color goes with everything, because most of my clothes are very dark and subdued in the colors. And yeah, it is lovely. And yes, the yarn is still acrylic, but it is soft and it is warm enough. I am very well aware that it is not nearly as warm as it would have been if it had been wool, but that's fine. It's large enough that I can keep warm. And the color. I love this color. So yeah, something that I really did not anticipate. Just one of those happy things that sometimes happens. I am very, very happy with this. It did, however, lead me to the 5th finished object, which is something that I cast on and finished since we last spoke. So that's why I said, is it true that I have no new cast-ons? Well, I have no new cast-on the needles, but I do have a new hat. Because the very first night that we were in Denmark, we were going to go to my youngest son and his family to have dinner. And I, of course, put on my new wonderful scarf. And then I could tell it's too cold to not be wearing a hat. So I have this big basket. I'm actually looking at it right now. I have a big basket full of all of our gloves and mittens and hats. Just to discover that most of my hats have taken up residence in either Italy or Texas. I had only 2 hats left here in Denmark, and they were both orange, like orange, which not a good match. So I decided I needed a hat, and I knit this one in a day. It is just a very, very simple chunky hat. knit out of some Drops Lima, which is a worsted weight yarn. I held it double, so I used almost 3 balls. It is warm. The Lima is wool and alpaca, so it is warm. Fortunately, my forehead is very sensitive, especially to alpaca. As soft as alpaca can feel in your hands, I cannot have it on my head. But the alpaca content in this yarn is, well, it's apparently not enough alpaca to upset my forehead. So this is just so nice to wear. I am really enjoying it. It's just something that I made. I have no pattern for it. What I did was, on a heavy needle, I cast on 76 stitches. I cast on 76 stitches, and I knit 2x2 ribbing for 7 inches, maybe a little more, something like that. 22 centimeters, I think. Then I did a German short row, and I turned my knitting, so I was knitting the other way, because I knew that I wanted a folded over brim, and I really like this side, the right side, if you will, of the cast on much better than this side. So in order to get the side that I liked, I did a German short row and knit the other way around. And then I wanted, usually when I do my hats, I will put in markers on typically 4 or 5, maybe sometimes 6 places on the crown, and just do decreases on both sides of my markers. But here I decided to do the decreases only on one side of the markers, so that I would get like a almost spiraling pattern to it. I don't even know if this comes through because it's black. But can you imagine if you only do decreases on one side of the marker, it is gonna like swivel around, and I really like that. It of course means that the hat will be a little more pointy, but I love that too. If I didn't like it, I could have stopped a bit before and just pulled the thread through all of the live stitches and pulled it tightly. But I actually like that it's a little bit pointy, especially for Christmas time. It reminds me of the Nisse hat. So that was what I did. And if you're really good with numbers, then you will think, Pia, there's something going wrong, because you said you did 2x2 ribbing, which means that your stitch count should be divisible by 4. And well, 76 can be divided by 4. But then you need to be able to divide that again by 4, because I made 4 decreases. And that's not possible. I have no idea if I'm really making sense. My understanding of numbers is a more intuitive understanding of numbers. I'm not going to say that I'm bad with math, because I actually don't think I am. It's just a different understanding I have. But yeah, it didn't fit. If I had had 80 stitches, I would have had 20 stitches between my 4 markers, which would have meant that I had 5 repeats of the 2x2 ribbing. But I didn't. I had 76. So I just placed 1 marker after 20 stitches, 1 more after another 20, 1 more after yet another 20, and then I only had 16 stitches left. And that's no problem. I've done that before. and it's absolutely no problem. I just did fewer increases in the section with the 16 stitches. In the beginning, I didn't decrease there. Did I just say increases? Of course I mean decreases. I just didn't decrease the first 2 rounds in the section with the 16 stitches. And then there were 2 fewer stitches in one section, and it absolutely doesn't matter. So a little tip, if you haven't tried that before, it doesn't matter. It's a hat. It goes on your head. I know my husband is tall enough that he can look down on my hat, and he could, was he so inclined, say, "But sweetheart, they're not evenly distributed." He would never do that. You can't tell. And even if someone can, if it really bothers them, they will have to look the other way. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it happens, they will have to look the other way. I am really enjoying my hat. Even though I said no more cast-ons. But this was a really quick knit, so I guess it's okay. If I was a bigger person, if I was the generous kind of person who knit for gifts, I would say this is a perfect gift knit. It takes an evening, 3 balls of a very budget-friendly yarn, and you have a beautiful hat that could be gifted. Yeah, I'm not that generous. I will knit to the people I love from time to time. You saw I just knit a sweater for little John, and I do that from time to time. I will gift knit, but not in a massive, like now I'm producing 1 million socks or 1 million hats or scarves to gift. Nah. No. Maybe in another lifetime I will be that generous person who does that. The only gift knitting I have planned for this year is for my beautiful and amazing daughter-in-law, Maria. When I was in Texas with her, she again and again told me how much she loved that I would put a shrug or a shawl or a vest over my tweed blazer when we were going out. It was, some days it was cold. And I typically do that when it's between seasons. It's not cold enough that you need to wear a big coat, but you want something, then I will put on a jacket, and then I will put either a shrug or a big shawl that I can not just use as a scarf, but use as a shawl or a vest over my jean jacket or my tweed blazer or whatever I'm wearing. And she kept saying how much she loved that look, and she wished that she had something she could use. So I have decided to make for her something that I have been curious to make for a long time, which is the Friend to Friend Shrug by Leslie Friend, who also has an amazing podcast. I will link that one as well. And I will also link her shrug pattern because it is beautiful. It is very form-fitting. So you have like a neckband, you have a shoulder, and then the shrug comes down. So I'm imagining that it fits very, very well over your body, and you just have to be careful to pick the right size. It is also worked on some rather heavy needles, and it's using some yarn that I actually have and also have ordered more of. Hang on, I'm blanking on the name, but I have it here. Yep, You and Me, it's called. think I also got this from Joann's. I think I did. And then I ordered some online, and it didn't come before I left Texas. But this is a heavy yarn, and it's acrylic too, but it's okay. It's just a shrug. It's not something that she's going to wear on her body. And I actually think that I'm going to use, I have so much left over from my scarf. So I'm thinking if I hold this double, I could combine these two colors. Aren't they just beautiful together? To make Maria a shrug, a friend-to-friend shrug that I can gift her. It's not going to be for Christmas because we're not going to be there for Christmas. I'm not going to ship anything to the US, but I'm going to bring it when we come for New Year's. Shipping to the US from Europe, no. And yeah, a little bow. I ordered an advent calendar from Dragon Hoard Yarn and Yarn Cafe Creation, their Harry Potter inspired advent calendar. I ordered because I want to make a blanket for my granddaughter who is a Harry Potter fan, if the world has ever seen one. So I decided to go for it, order the advent, and hope for the best. It is being held in custom, so it's gonna cost me a fortune. Like, it's probably gonna almost double in price. So I will have to find the double amount of joy when I'm knitting with it, right? That's how that goes. Since we came back to Denmark, we have been living upstairs again. This is my craft room that I'm sitting in. Just behind my craft room is a little studio apartment, and I have shown this before. It's tiny. It is just a studio. So we have a bed, kitchen, dining room, and a teeny tiny bathroom, and that's it. We are staying there because there is a renovation going on in our main house. Started early summer, where I was just saying I would really like some new fronts to our kitchen cabinets. And I am married to someone very, very nice who sees it as his job in life to keep me happy. So when I say I want something, he thinks that he needs to make it happen. Yeah. And the thing is, and I'm sure that everyone who lives in an old house knows this, when you start, there is no end to it. This farmhouse here is a little more than 100 years old, and every time maybe you just want to change the light bulbs, it's going to be a big to-do. So this has been huge. It should be finished very soon. But until it finishes, we're up here in our studio and my craft room, and we're having a good time. There is something special to be said for being up here. I am close to my yarn, which is a good thing because I still have one whip to go. One whip. And I don't think I'm going to finish that by December 1st. There is still a lot of knitting to be done on it. I mean, a lot. I am so sorry, sweetheart. You are sleeping on my project bag. I keep it in one of these. These are just inexpensive gift bags that I got off Amazon to put all my knitting in. And inside it is something that you have seen before if you have been following the channel, it is my perfect little cardigan. And I don't think I'm going to finish that before December 1st because I only just split for the sleeves. So it's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to try. It's the only thing that I have to knit on. So that should give me a better chance than last week when I had so many different things to knit on. But yeah, I am really enjoying this. It's my adopted yarn, my rescued yarn. Garnspecialisten in Denmark. All of the yarn that they are selling, everything is rescued from the textile industry. So it can be, some of their yarns are on cones and rather thin threads that have been used in the fashion industry. Others are like this knitting, hand knitting yarn created for hand knitting, but maybe the manufacturer didn't like the color or the thickness of the, I don't know. Maybe it was just, that was too much. And usually all of these things are just destroyed, but Garnspecialisten buys them and then offers them to us for really good prices. I will put a link in the description box below because they do have lovely yarns in there. You never know what they're gonna have. It's because they get a truckload of this, and when it's gone, it's gone. So when you visit their site and you see something you love, you should probably get it because you don't know that it's going to be there the next time you come. But I got this, which is a rustic wool, and I have talked about this yarn before. I will just say that I am really enjoying working with it. I am sure that it's going to be a wonderful garment, and yeah. So that is what I am working on. My only whip, which is of course not true. I have other whips. I have my Kalat Shaw that I left in Texas because as I was packing my suitcase, I was like, am I going to work on this before New Year's? And I knew, no, I'm not. I have so much, as you have seen. And I also know that for December, I want to focus on Advent knitting and crochet. I don't want anything lying around calling for my attention. So if I don't finish this, it's not going to happen. But then I'm just gonna hang it on a hanger so I can look at it and go, wow, that is so pretty. But so that I don't feel any pressure to work on it because it's on a hanger. It's a piece of clothing with knitting needles. But yeah, my personal brand of crazy. Yeah, so I left my Kalat shawl. I have, of course, also a couple of blankets on the go, but blankets don't count. They just don't. Because they're these big, massive time investment pieces, and they don't count until they are so close to being done that you can see, okay, I can finish this within a couple of weeks or a month or something like that. Then they become whips, but until then, they're not whips. They're just little baskets of wonderful that hangs out in my house. So yeah, one active whip, and I will knit on it when I can. I will not stress myself. I will finish when I finish, but for sure, come December 1st, I will dive right into Advent knitting and crochet. If you want, you can follow me on that journey. You can hear a lot about my Advent knitting and crochet because I am going to be doing Vlogmas this year. So there will not be a podcast next weekend because I'm going to start Vlogmas obviously on December 1st, and then we have a hectic weekend with a lot going on, so I'm not going to have time to record a podcast. I will try to do at least some podcasts throughout December because I do know that there are some that doesn't appreciate the Vlogmases, but I cannot promise how much it will be. Time will tell. But for sure, I'm going to be doing Vlogmas. I am so excited for that. I'm really looking forward to sharing my everyday life with you, sharing my knits, my crochet projects, and all of my Christmas preparations. I really hope that you want to stop by during Vlogmas, just hang out with me for a little while. And then, as always, I do hope that you are knitting, working on something that brings you joy. Until I see you again, stay safe, stay happy, and keep knitting.